Hello, everybody. My name is Shanif, and I'm the founder of Nobi. And I'm also a software engineer and a data scientist who's been using AI for about 3 years now as a way to just boost my productivity. I've learned a lot about how to use things like Claude Code and other AI tools. And I thought it might be interesting to just kind of show folks how I generally work with AI to accomplish some of the things I need. I'm a consultant and I'm also founding a startup with just myself and a co founder. And so it's a very small team. And so I have to be responsible for getting a lot of work done. So I thought it would be kind of cool to walk through an actual project that I'm working on and basically just stream while I work with AI what I'm doing. And so today we're going to do just that. One of my projects is to revamp the Nobi website. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Nobi, we've got basically it's my startup, and what we do is we have an AI search engine for websites, primarily for e-commerce websites, but it could be for lots of different companies that sell things online. Now, the product is in use, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention it. So we've got a couple of nice brands that are using it. Lucchese is one of the biggest companies. They're a boot company, great company. Go check them out. And one of the things that we've got is sort of a complex product where our product can do both AI search, so searching across your product catalog, but also do things like Q&A and answering questions. It can even do things like capturing leads and even proactively engaging with your customers. And so there's a lot here. And one of the things I'm really pushing for, both in my own life as well as in my professional sort of career, is simplicity. I think that when things are simple and easier to understand, then people are more likely to gravitate towards them. So Nobi's website today is not simple. If I scroll through it right here, it kind of comes across as sort of what it does, but at the same time, it's not super engaging or super clear. So what we're going to do today is just spend about an hour walking through Claude Design to see if we can simplify this. Now, we're probably not going to get through the whole project, but it'll give you a sense for the types of work you can do. And my hope is that if folks like this sort of video series, I can continue to create more videos like this. All right, so let's actually go ahead and jump into an existing Claude Design project that I've already started. Now, I'm using Claude Design here mostly because I kind of wanted to just see how good is it when it comes to implementing something from scratch. I have been using sort of Claude Code and the desktop app and Codex as well to do a lot of my work and also Claude Co-work. But Claude Design came out as sort of being pitched as a new way to do design. And so I wanted to see how it would work. So I've already got a project started here. You can actually see I've gone through many different iterations of a sort of a different series of ways to try Nobi's homepage. This has been a project that's been in the works for a long time, probably 6 weeks now. So you can see here there's lots of different versions that I've tried in the past. And I settled on this concept that you're seeing here on this main screen of simple, in-your-face, clear messaging. We're going to continue to work on this item right here. Right now, really all that's sort of done is the hero. Now, in the background, a couple of weeks ago, I also had a product marketing person come in and help me with some of the potential designs for the homepage. So I've got that open here. And the goal of today is to basically see how far I can get with some of the tasks I have to do. Now, I've got 3 main tasks for today. I want to update this website so that it continues to use Google Analytics and some of the other tracking pixels that I have. I don't think that we have done that so far, and those already exist on Nobi.ai, so I want to make sure we capture those. I also want to update the hero a bit. I'm sort of debating between this lighter, sort of simpler version here with the existing version that we've got here on Nobi. Also, again, would be remiss to say we've got this exit intent pop-up, so if you're interested in capturing site visitors and engaging them and learning why they're not converting, give me a shout out. Would love to see if Nobi works for you. But let's continue on. And then the third thing I'd like to complete today is getting through the rest of the homepage, which I will admit right now, I don't have a very strong idea of what this is going to look like. My hope is that I can work with the version that I got here from the product marketing expert, along with have Claude Design help me out. So let's just jump right in. We're going to work for about an hour, and then we'll see how far we get. Now, the first thing I want to do is remember to make sure to add the Google Analytics and other tracking components. So I'm just going to go ahead and start resuming this project that I've already got here with Claude Code. Here, right now, you can see I'm using Fable. This might be overkill for what we're doing, so I'm going to switch back to Opus 4.8. And the reason is that Fable tends to use up a lot of tokens. And for the effort, I like to use high. So let's go ahead and change the effort. And I'll just describe what I need. So I'm going to say, right now on Nobi.ai, we have several tracking pixels in place, including Google Analytics, and I think our B2B, and maybe others. Before we go any further, I'd like to ensure those are implemented on this site as well, so that we have those when we do the cutover. Please implement them now. Okay, so you can see I'm just going ahead and telling Claude Design what I want it to do. Now, there's a couple of things to keep in mind here. Claude Design already has access to my GitHub repo, and inside of my GitHub repo, I've already got the code for the Nobi.ai website. And Nobi.ai and also a lot of my other websites, we used to use Webflow for these. And what we've done is we've actually switched out of Webflow, and we've just used Claude Code to create them, and we run and host them on Cloudflare. So here Claude is saying, hey, I don't actually have your tracking IDs. And so my hope was it was going to go through the Nobi website and go find those. So I'm just going to watch it as it works a little bit here, and we might forward through some of this stuff for the final video, but for now I think it's helpful just to see what it's doing. I'm just going to course correct it a little bit. Right now, you do have access to the Nobi.ai website code, which it does have our existing tracking pixels on it. You should be able to reuse those. Now, I'm telling you this because we are essentially planning on replacing Nobi.ai with this new site. And so it's okay to reuse the pixels for those existing properties. Okay, so it looks like I went ahead and installed Google Tag Manager. Now, if I remember correctly, I think maybe we are using GTM for those pixels specifically. So let's see what it does here. Okay, so it is firing. It looks like it's saying it's probably fired through GTM, which makes sense because I tried to switch everything over to GTM a couple of months ago. Okay, so I think we're fine here. I'm going to move on. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to try to do is look at this hero and see if it still makes sense for what I'm trying to do here. I'm looking at this whole thing and trying to understand what is it that I want this home screen to convey. I really wanted to convey the fact that Nobi is a modern site search engine. It uses semantic search, which is way better than keyword search, and it is conversational. So we've got a lot of that here already. And again, this has been a couple of weeks since I've taken a look at this. So I'm kind of looking at both of these. I kind of like this version here, which is a little bit nicer. I do want it to extend down, though. I would love for this to be sort of a full page experience. I don't love the peach globs here as much as I like the sort of multicolored globs here, but there's too many of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a screenshot of this. And I'm going to come back into Claude Design. I'm going to find my Finder here. I'm going to drop this into Claude Design. And I'm going to say, oops, it's the wrong screenshot here. Or is it? That actually might be the right one. Let's see. Let me open this up here. Yep, that's the right one. Okay. I'm going to say, while we were away, I had a marketer take a stab at the design. He came up with the attached design here for the screenshot. I like the coloring and the fonts and a lot of his designs. What I don't love are the globs because they're only one color, but I do like the fact that there are far fewer than what you have done in your design. Can you make your design look more like his? The only thing I would keep from yours is the multicolored globs, but I would have fewer of them. Okay, so this is me sort of tweaking the hero version, but I think the hero of your homepage is going to be really important because if you have ever installed something like Hotjar or tracking, you'll know that most folks don't scroll too far past your hero. So it's really important that it's attractive. I think the goal of the hero is to give folks who might be interested in your product a reason to keep scrolling. And that's what I'm trying to do here, both from a messaging standpoint, which I think we're close on, which I'll address after this, and a design standpoint. So we're going to let Claude Design work here. You can see it's giving me updates here. Now, the way that Claude Design works is a little bit different than what you might use for Claude Desktop or Claude Code. This right now is all up on the cloud, which means it's got its own workspace with its own files, which is not ideal because whenever I try to get it to commit to Git, it says it can't do it and it has to give me a download or a package. And so what now I will have to do when this is all done is download it all and then work with my local Claude code to put this into the Nobi.ai repository. But we'll worry about that as it gets closer to being done. Okay, now it looks like Claude Code or Claude Design has said that it is done with, oh, no, it's continuing on. All right, it looks like it said it's done. Let's take a look. To me, this purple still feels too dark, but I like it more. The purples, you know what I'm going to do now is actually give Claude Code the actual, I'm going to see if I can grab the actual code for the hero here from the version that I like. I'm going to, there's a way to copy the styles. Here we go. The purple, this new purple is a great color. I just wonder if you can quickly make it look like the version I gave you before. Here are the reference styles for that version. Now, by giving it the reference styles, my hope is that it can copy and paste exactly the purple and then any other relevant styles that it needs, rather than me asking it to guess based on the screenshot that I gave it, which it should be able to do anyway. You know, these LLMs are really good at understanding colors and images now, but if it has the actual code, then it's just faster and more convenient. So now it's softened the globs. I didn't want you to change the texture of the globs. I wanted to see what they looked like as is using the new purple background. I do like this new style though. I think it's converging on something that's quite nice and very attractive. Actually, you know, now that it's reverted it, you know, it was right. Okay, now that you reverted it, I do like those new styles a little bit better. I liked that they were softer. Let's iterate on those a bit. Now, this is basically a lot of what I do when it comes to smaller projects, the iterative approach. This is a little bit different than larger projects where I might just have the system run in the background, sometimes overnight. But when it comes to visual designs, I still feel like these LLMs are not that great when it comes to this stuff. And I think that iterating quickly makes for a better product in the end. Okay, so it looks like it updated the color, it updated the globs. Did you change the colors of the globs? They all seem a shade of pink and purple now, whereas before we had a variety of colors. Kind of want to see what that looks like. Now I keep sort of removing typos, but these systems are quite good when it comes to typos. I probably don't need to do that. Now that I mentioned it, I'm just going to try to forget about those going forward. Okay, so I'm going to let it work here. No, yeah, the other way was a lot better. The other way was a lot better. Let's go back. Now, of course, this is all subjective. Some of you might be looking at this and completely disagreeing with me, and that's sort of the beauty of working with these things is you can make changes quite quickly, and if you don't like it, you can update your own sites as well. And so this is just an example of how you might start to do that. All right, so now I've gotten through updating the hero. Actually, you know what? The purple's still, sorry, I didn't want to go so far back. The purple, I just wanted you to update the blobs. I'm saying this because I think you might have changed the purple background. So I think the purple is a little bit too dark now compared to what we had. Let me just take a quick look. I really do like this shade. All right, well, it's telling me it's the same shade. Okay, looking at it now, I guess it is. Cool. Okay, so now the design, I think, is okay. One of the things I'm trying to figure out now is the messaging. So I think modern site search that converts is sort of the way I'm trying to go, but Nobi really is conversational. And I'm trying to understand, you know, the one thing we're trying to attract new marketers to do is really move into a conversational site search experience because we think it's richer. So I'm wondering if maybe I can just tell Claude that and see what it says. Right now, everything looks good, but I keep wondering. Sorry, I think I might have said Claude Code. I meant Claude Design. About the messaging. Nobi is really a conversational experience in addition to being quite modern. We want and think that marketers should move towards that conversational experience. Give their visitors a better UX. We're not really mentioning that here. What can we do? And this is an area where Claude Design does not really work well, is strategy and tactics. But I think we can see what it does. It's the same underlying system as what Claude uses and what Claude Code uses. And so there's a chance that it might have some good ideas. Okay, it looks like it updated the headline, the subheading. I don't love it. I think with the subheading now being 3 lines. It's too much text. Remember, I'm really trying to simplify here. The other thing we're not really mentioning here is that when we use the word modern, a big part of that is semantic search. And we're not mentioning that here either. What are your thoughts? Here's what I'm thinking, and I'll just talk while I type. Unfortunately, I can talk a lot faster. So what I'm going to do, I've actually installed a text-to-speech local model on my machine. I'm going to push the button that allows me to talk while I'm thinking out loud, and then that turns it into text. The first thing we could try is updating the heading so that it mentions something about more relevant search or semantic search. But I worry that that's going to make the heading too long. I really want to keep it down to 2 lines. The other thing we could do is mention the subheading. Okay, so you can see when I was talking, it went ahead and it turned that into text. You're going to probably see me do that a little bit more going forward. Hopefully it doesn't throw you, but as I'm talking to both you and Claude, and so hopefully it makes sense. The other thing I think we might be able to do is add some sort of pill below maybe the buttons. Those pills don't need to be clickable, but maybe they can have 2 or 3 of the key value props that we offer. Now, I know we've got a pill at the top as well. That might be okay. It might look weird to have pills at the top and bottom, but I think it's worth trying. What I'd like you to do is think through a couple of these designs, maybe come up with a few different designs that I can look at and then choose from when I have a chance to see them. Okay, so now I have talked to Claude Design, quite literally. I'm not a great designer, and so what I end up having Claude Design do from time to time is come up with a few different options, and then I'm able to select the one that I like the best. So what I gave it sort of context on what to do was, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I want to try. One thing I should have said is also, hey, feel free to come up with your own creative ideas and show them to me as well. Okay, so now I should have told it, hey, look, you think about this as well. Claude Design is an expert in design. It should be able to come up with something for me. And that's what it's going through now. It looks like it is coming up with a few creative ways for us to come up with better messaging. So I'm going to let it work. Might end up fast forwarding this, or I might just keep it. It's always interesting to see what's going on in the background. Now this is cool. I've never seen this before, but it's essentially creating previews of the actual homepage without making it a full version like it would have before, which allows me to see multiple options all in one, which is really cool. Not sure how I'm feeling about these. Some of them are interesting. Nothing has really captured my attention so far or made me fall in love with it yet, but I kind of like this. I gotta say, it's too many pills, but maybe we can remove that pill from the top. Oh, now this is interesting. Okay, let's take a quick look at these top to bottom. This is kind of what we've already got. Again, I'm trying to keep things simple, and so I'm really hesitant to add too many new things. This basically just changes the wording, which I'm not a huge fan of, but let's see. No, I like the punchy wording right here. I do kind of like this. This is kind of interesting. 1C is kind of unique in that sense. but it sort of takes away from the heading, which I don't love. Okay, 1D. This is interesting. Understands meaning, but it's kind of like AI uses these check marks a lot, and it's I don't know. I kind of feel like they've lost their impact a little bit. I don't know. It's still kind of cool. I kind of am gravitating towards 1F. Let's go with 1F. With 1F, but instead of short phrases, let's use the following. Semantic search, semantic relevance, not keywords. Conversational. Let's see. Now we've already created something that says it converts more. So I'm wondering if we need to have that again. Let's see. Maybe we'll say, yeah, I think converts more still works here. Say high converting. Give me two new, I'm going to say, give me two new options. One with the existing 1F, just with the icons, and then two, try putting the individual items from 1F into their own pills, kind of like what you have in 1E. Okay, I'm going to let it work now. Okay, it looks like it came up with two new options. Let's take a look. Yeah, this is not great. Definitely don't want these going onto new lines, but maybe they won't once we are actually full screen. Sorry, one thing I wanted it to do for 1H, I wanted you to include the icons. And just quickly go through these again. I don't know, I keep coming back to this and it also looks kind of nice. Might need to see these in a full screen just to see what it looks like. Okay, let's go ahead and look at these full screen. Can I see the following versions, options, full screen, so I can get the full experience? Let's go with 1C. Let's go with, I do like these pills a lot more. And let's go with 1H. And let's just take a look at what 1E looks like. Now, what it looks like it's doing is every time I ask it for a turn, it looks like it's creating new pages. And this is good in the sense that it allows us to go back and take a look at what things look like in the past. It's a little bit nuanced, though, in terms of when we actually download the final site. We're just going to have to make sure that we tell Claude Design we just want the final site, and it can remove all of the intermediate artifacts so that we don't have to deal with deploying everything to our cloud version. And when it comes to deployment, what I usually do is I use Cloudflare's free pages feature, which allows me to both take advantage of Cloudflare's fast cloud-based infrastructure and also just script the deploy. So all I have to do is type one command and then it can get up and running. Okay, so it looks like it's working on adding these different options now. I'm gonna reduce the size of this bar here just so I can get, oh, I do like this a lot actually. This looks a lot nicer, and this is the benefit of seeing things full screen. And it's saying modern here twice, which I'll have to change. But if this is the version that I go with, maybe what I can do is combine this with the pills. Again, I'm trying to not go overboard here because I do think simplicity is key, but this could be nice. Let's take a look. Okay, so this is 1C, and you can see here it's built a switcher. It's pretty good when it comes to this stuff. Okay, so 1C, 1H. I don't know, now that I look at this, I kind of like 1C more. Definitely don't like 1E. Yeah, I kind of like 1C. Okay. Okay. Let's do this. Okay, we're going to go with 1C. Use the following phrases. Semantic. Actually, I like semantic. I like conversational. Change modern to converting. Since we say start the heading with modern already. I'm just going to take one last look at the messaging itself. Modern site search that converts. It's true. Keyword search is outdated. Yeah, let's keep it simple. So what I would like you to do is create or maintain one primary version of the final site, and as we make incremental improvements, update that version. Actually, it's kind of doing that already, so I don't have to tell it to do that again. Okay, now we're not using those pills anymore, but I do like them, and so maybe that's something we can keep in mind as we create the rest of these. Okay, so this is, I think, a good stopping point for the hero. Now let's scroll down. One of the big things I want to do now is improve the rest of this site. Now, as I scroll down, let's go back to the reference site here. And what you're seeing here is Nobi's floating bar, which we will have on the final version as well. Or maybe I'll have a little button. We recently created the ability to have Nobi as a button. So let's see what makes the most sense for this next. Kind of like this low-key social proof bar here. A little bit more than what we've got. Maybe not. Let's see. Trusted by modern teams. I do like the font here. Okay, maybe this is fine. There's just this is kind of an awkward spacing thing here. I'm just trying to figure out how to best do this. So in the reference we've got an actual try it live. One of the things I'm probably going to do though is actually have a demo version here where you can use Nobi to search across all of our customers. So I'm not going to have a try it live quite yet. What I would like to do though is have these, if I remember correctly, there were these large feature sections down here, which I really liked. Yeah. And I think we can incorporate some of these into our main version here. So in fact, what I'm going to do, this is going to be a little bit of an experiment, but I'm going to tell Claude Design to go out to the existing PR on my GitHub. So PR is a pull request for those of you who've never worked with Git. And it contains a list of the changes that you've got. And all of these changes from the marketer are on a PR, on a pull request, which Claude Design should have access to. So I'm going to tell it I'm just going to give it the context. So one thing I think we can do better is the transition after the social proof bar to whatever comes next. Previously, we had talked about using Nobi as a live demo on that section, but I'm going to move away from that for now. Instead, what I'd like to do is have full screen feature concepts so that as someone scrolls, they can see the different types of features that Nobi has. Now, what I'd like to do first is orient the homepage towards search. Now, while Nobi has multiple different features, I think search is the one that people come to us for. And so the way I'm imagining the homepage to look is that the homepage, once you scroll down past the social proof section, it'll have anywhere from 3 to 5 big, bold features about why our search engine is best or why you should use it. And as you're scrolling, you go from one feature to the next. After those feature sections, we'll have to figure out what comes next. I've got a few ideas that might be for this video. It might be for a later one, but that's essentially what I'm thinking about. Okay, so I actually just talked to Claude about all that. I should have warned you that's what I was doing. But in any case, when I'm talking, what I'm doing is I'm holding down a key on my keyboard, which I've mapped to the ability to speak, and then I basically just say what I need to say. Okay, now I told it what I want to do, but I didn't give it context. What I'd like you to do next is go out to our Nobi website GitHub repo. There's one open PR there. That PR begins to implement what I was just talking about in terms of the list of features and the design for how we display those features. Please pull down or at least analyze that code and replace our current Try It Live section with a list of the 3 features that you see in the PR. We may end up changing those features, but for now, I just want to get them up and running to see how they look. Okay, so that was one big message that I sent to Claude Design. What it's going to hopefully go and do now is take a look at our existing repository, pull down the features or pull down the code that contains the newly designed homepage features that I've got, and then hopefully start to use them. Now, if you're still with me, I appreciate it. I don't know if my voice is putting you to sleep or not, but essentially what I'm trying to do is not only work through a real life project that I've got, but also show you out there, for those of you who maybe haven't used a lot of the different AI tools or are still doing things manually, there's a whole new world where you can start to just delegate everything to the AI system. And now what our job becomes is to be a manager, to be the person who's got the vision and the overseer. And that's how I work with everything. Not only Claude Design, but also all of the code and the products that I'm developing. A lot of that now is sort of quote unquote outsourced to the AI. And my job now is to make sure that its deliverables are good. Okay, so here's what Claude Design did. It went to look at the main code, which actually does not have those features, as I kind of indicated to it. And it said, okay, look, they only live on the PR. And so it needs me to show it the PR URL. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over to my other Chrome browser and give it the actual URL of that PR. So here it is, the URL. Now it can hopefully go through, pull down the relevant code, and then use what it learned from that implementation to update our working version of the homepage here. Now, I still am going to want to have it do a better job of transitioning from the social proof bar to the list of features. But now that we've got this list of features that we're going to be implementing, I think that it's going to have perhaps a different way to do these transitions, but we'll see. I'm going to keep pushing it here. This is an area where I spent a lot of time before and trying to get it to do what I wanted, and it just didn't work very well. And so I suspect I'll be spending a lot of time here, which again, might be a video for a different day. Or maybe the same day, but just a different video. Okay, so let's see what it's doing. Okay, it needs the feature branch name, it looks like. think it was able to find it. Again, these things are quite good at navigating their way through challenges and blockers. Right now, it's going through and taking a look at how those features were actually implemented. As I'm waiting for this to work, I might as well start talking a little bit about how I'm planning on using AI for some upcoming products, or actually some upcoming solutions. Now, one of the things we're trying to do with Nobi is obviously get more customers. One way that we think we can do that is better outreach, and that includes both large scale, punchy emails, but also community monitoring. And what I mean by that is taking a look at things like the Shopify forums, the Reddit forums, um, posts online, posts on LinkedIn, maybe even Quora, and seeing where people are having trouble with things that are related to product discovery or site search or things in that nature, and then start to respond to some of those folks who are reaching out and saying they might need help. Now, I can do this manually, but again, one of the things I'm trying to do outside of Nobi, but in support of it, is to build up an automated marketing system, a platform that does multiple different things. And so after I have some free time, which might be never, but hopefully it will be in the next few days, I'll start to be able to set the groundwork for an automated system that can actually start to do some of these things. I'm right now working with a buddy of mine who can actually go through and help to productize the SEO engine that I've already started to use for Nobi's blog. So as a quick aside, while we wait for Claude Design to do its thing, if you go to Nobi's blog, you'll see that there's a lot of different articles here, and a lot of these are bottom of funnel. So things like best software for e-commerce search, or Klaviyo, or not Klaviyo, but maybe Algolia versus Constructor versus Nobi. A lot of these, actually, almost all of it was constructed by AI. Everything from the hero down to the pricing research, down to what they are and when you should use each one. As I said, I'm sort of working with a friend of mine now to build out that system that generated all those blogs into a more general productized version so that a lot of other folks can use those as well. All right, so looks like we're still working here. I think I gave it a bigger task. The task includes both looking at how something is already implemented, learning about it, and then implementing it on our current page. Still not sure if this purple is what I was hoping for. It looks like it is the same, maybe the same purple, but maybe not. This purple looks a little bit lighter. It's probably because it's a full page here. But let's just make sure. Okay, so what we're doing now is it looks like it has gone through and implemented, or at least it pulled the 3 features and it implemented them on our current site. Now this new purple feels a little bit too light. Sorry, guys. Sometimes you take a couple of steps forward just to go a couple of steps back. Okay, let me go back and read what it was doing. So let's see. It pulled the features and it added the new sections. Great. And it made them full screen. This min height 100 VH makes it full screen, or at least it should. We'll test it out. Scrolling. Okay. All right, this is fine, I think, for now. Sometimes when you look at the same thing for too long, it just becomes like this one, it's totally weird, sort of alien looking thing, right? So you need to step away. But I think this is good. Let's go through now and take a look at what we've got here. I don't know. Okay, so it didn't do a great job of the transitions. Okay. Well, let's tell it that. Okay, so in this version, it's the scrolling is a bit weird. In the version I gave you in the PR, the scrolling was really smooth, and the backgrounds were sort of full screen. Like there was never a point in time where when you were scrolling, the transition would move the content up and down. You know what I mean? Can you try to implement the same effect here? So sometimes when you're talking to these systems, they get what you're saying. Sometimes they don't. This is a little bit more of a vague question here that I've got. So let's see if it can go ahead and answer this. So what we're going to do now is hopefully get it to a point where it implements the features that I just showed you, and it does this in a nice, smooth, seamless way. We might play around with the content a little bit. Actually, we probably will. And we might play around with the background as well, because I was imagining kind of like what you see here with this homepage really taking over. I really want the features to be in your face and full screen and really take over your eyes. And so I'll probably play around with the backgrounds a little bit. Okay, it still hasn't really done what I was hoping for. Now this is going to be a little bit of a harder one to explain to the system because it's not really working well, and it's not doing what the reference screen was doing. So what I'm going to do is see if I can take a series of screenshots from the reference to give it a sense for what it's supposed to do. Okay, so let's go with version 1 here, version 2 here, and 3 here. I'm going to give it all of these. Just going to drag and drop them in. And I'm going to tell it, hey, you kind of missed the mark here. What we're trying to do is get these sort of full screen sections here. And I actually kind of think maybe you did it, but when I scroll, it feels like nothing is happening, right? It feels like sometimes when I'm scrolling, it's just paused. And the thing I think that the reference version did better was it had a UX indicator on the right-hand side that basically responded to my scrolling when I was able to scroll, so that it never felt like the site was frozen. I don't know if this makes sense, but essentially your version right now has a weird UX issue where it's kind of frozen and it gives a bad UX. The other thing I want you to think about is what happens on mobile. So make sure that as you implement this on mobile, which we will test, it works properly. Quickly delete these screenshots from my desktop. It's kind of one of the annoying things that happens when you work a lot with AI systems. You end up getting a lot of screenshots so that you can give it clues about what it's doing on your machine. My desktop sometimes has 20 or 30 screenshots on it when I forget to clear it out. Okay, well, whenever you send it a screenshot, it's got a little bit more data to analyze, especially when you send it multiple screenshots. So hopefully it's doing its thing and it's coming back and figuring out how to implement this properly. Now, once it does implement this, I kind of mentioned, I see this being a little bit more attractive with a dark purple background instead of these lighter white backgrounds. I might be wrong. This version here is actually quite nice. I think maybe I'll make it a lot bigger because if it is full screen, it should really take up your entire perception. Like I said, after the feature sections, we're gonna have to figure out what makes the most sense. I think we're going to probably get rid of the try live, and we're not really, I don't think I'm going to use this. After this, it might make sense to have the case study. Might make sense to have a couple of the metrics that we've got today. We do drive a lot of conversions, and we have a lot of different things you can do with us. I do kind of like this here. I think this is nice and big and bold. Maybe we'll have that. I'll have to figure out sort of what's the best way to keep things simple, but obviously continue to be clear and engaging with customers who have scrolled down this far. Because if you've scrolled down this far, chances are you're looking for more information, and that's something that we'll have to figure out. Okay. This is still really janky. Like, the scrolling is really bad here. I'm going to tell it that as well. This is a little bit better, but the scrolling is still really janky. Like, sometimes I'll have to scroll for like 2.5 seconds before it actually does anything. On the reference PR I gave you, it is beautiful. I think you can just copy the code for the scrolling from that reference PR for what you're trying to do here. All right, so we're coming up on an hour. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have this thing fully implement the sections here, just in terms of the scrolling and the implementation. And then we're going to call it a day, or at least we're going to call it a video. My job now is to continue to spruce up these sections here and make sure I know what to put at the bottom, make it a really compelling site. And then what I'm going to do, there's a lot of work ahead for the rest of the site, is build out the rest of our pages. Right now, what we've got, we're going to have one page per feature, per functionality. And the home page is going to be dedicated to search because that is the thing most people want to use us for. And of course, as I'm scrolling now, I realize that the nav bar should be static at the top. And so I'm going to make sure that I make a note to myself to ensure that's the case. Okay, let's see what it's up to. It says it's going to copy the actual implementation. Okay, I think it's done. Let's see if it works. See, now this is the problem. I think that when I scroll on these sections here, they don't show any weird jank in between. So the scroll bar is here, but then if I move the scroll bar a little bit lower, it's still showing the full section. So I'm going to copy these and provide them as references. Versus ours, which does show jank. Okay, this still misses the mark. I gave you 2 screenshots from the reference. Those screenshots show what my browser looks like at different scroll heights. If you take a look at the scroll bar, you can see I had scrolled up and down. The nice thing about that reference was there was no section transition. There was no weird jank seamless, or I'm sorry, no seams as I was scrolling. But in your recent implementation, there is a seam. You can see the line that goes from one section to the next, and it's really jarring. So I'm really begging you to please implement this in the same way that we have on the PR. You have the exact code that was used. You can simply copy that code. It's not supposed to be this hard. So here you can see I'm getting a little bit frustrated. I do tend to talk to AI a lot worse than that. I'm keeping things PG today, just for everybody's sake. But sometimes you do need to get a little bit more stern with these things to make sure that they can do their jobs. My hope is that if I gave it, you see I kind of gave it 2 screenshots here, one with the scroll bar a little bit lower. My hope is that by showing it what I'm talking about, it will then be able to understand what I mean. And then by comparing it to what it's doing today, it'll learn what it needs to fix. All right, we'll wait to scroll. until it tells us that it's ready. Okay, let's see. All right, well, it looks like it fixed it, but let's be the judge of that. Find anything on your site? Nope, still incorrect. No, I'm just going to tell it, no, this is still incorrect. The seam was only an effect. The problem is we're still seeing these sections have scrolling with natural scrolling, which is fine for most websites, but what I'm trying to tell you is the text and the content in your implementation scrolls up and down, but in the PR reference, it sort of stays in the center of the screen until somebody scrolls enough that then it moves to the next section. You kind of had this in your first implementation, except that I had to scroll for way too long and too intently before it would move sections. And you also didn't have a scroll indicator at the right. I will say it's way easier to be able to talk to AI than type it all out. Typing can just take so much more time and effort. And so if you guys don't have a way to speak to your AI yet, I would definitely implement it. Even the way I've done it is kind of janky, but I guess it works. I have an app called Speak to App #2 that I've set up on my Mac. And what I do is I hold down a key. And when I'm holding down that key, which I've mapped inside the Speak to App application, anywhere where my mouse has focus, it essentially takes what I'm saying. And then once I'm done, it translates that to text. It does this by using a local AI model called Whisper, which is made for basically text to voice or voice to text. And it actually runs entirely locally, which is kind of nice. Then you can use it when you don't have internet. All right, we're coming up on about an hour now, just in terms of raw recording. What we're going to do is give it one last chance to see if it can fix it. If it can, I'll walk you through what the final version looks like, at least as it is now. But in any case, we're going to wrap it up in a couple of minutes. Hopefully this was interesting for you all. I'll wrap it up once I get the next answer from the system. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is I use the max plan. You can see here there are a lot of tokens going back and forth. If you just use the API, this thing would probably wipe out your wallet. By using the max plan, which is significantly subsidized, at least right now, you are able to do a lot more work without having the cap in terms of tokens and without also, well, you do have a cap, but it's a lot cheaper. All right, so we're going to walk through this here. Still not ideal, but we're going to call it a day. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with me this far. If this was interesting, I'm going to keep working on a few different videos to help you understand how to use AI to move more efficiently. Sometimes, as you can see here, the efficiency isn't quite there, but if you continue to use it, you will be a lot faster. Especially, this was really helpful if you are a solo developer or solo freelancer, but even teams that are large can start to use AI to move faster. All right, that's all. I'm Shanif. Now, if you want to implement AI search for your website or you're interested in anything that I've talked about, reach out to me. My name is Shanif, SHANIF, at Nobi.ai. Feel free to find me on LinkedIn as well. I'm one of the few Shanifs on there. All right, everybody, thank you so much. Have a good day.